What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today, where we're going to be talking about some free agents, right? I don't know about you, but my phone was going absolutely crazy all day yesterday with a few big name players who were not franchise tagged who are now going to be free agents here in 2021. Where are some of the best landing spots for some of these big names? That's what we're going to be talking about here today. Now, the likes of Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin, they're not going to be in this video. Why? They were franchise tagged by their team. So Chris Godwin remaining in Tampa Bay. Allen Robinson, we are sorry, but you are remaining in Chicago. I mean, can you just imagine what Allen Robinson would be like on a team with a true solid quarterback? The dude has performed with Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky throughout his career. Can we get the guy a quarterback one for the love of all things holy? The guy could be huge in fantasy football in the NFL if we can just get him that solid quarterback play. However, going to have to stick it out one more year in Chicago. Hopefully they can put some pieces together there around him. But now it's time to talk about a few of the other big names that are going to be free agents here this year. And the biggest one maybe of all of them, what about running back Aaron Jones? And it seems like we've been saying it for years, right? Free Aaron Jones. It just seems like this guy could never get the full workload in that Green Bay backfield. He was always splitting with somebody else, and it really made no sense, right? He was by far the most talented back in the backfield, and when given the opportunities, he was producing. He had over 1,500 yards from scrimmage each of the last 2 years, and over the last 2 years combined scored 30 freaking touchdowns. The guy is a great running back, and he's going to require a lot of money here in free agency. Who are a couple teams out there that have the cap space available to sign an Aaron Jones and maybe the need for a running back? Well, I've narrowed it down to two teams here, which I think makes a lot of sense. The first one, the Miami Dolphins. I mean, they have $35 million available in cap space. Now, yes, we have Myles Gaskin in the backfield, but let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves here. Aaron Jones is light years ahead of Myles Gaskin, and Myles Gaskin would provide a little bit of depth in case something were to happen to Aaron Jones. So Miami, definitely a team on the rise here. We know they want to run the football more. Heck, they would have been inside the top 10 in rushing attempts there in 2020 had it not been for all the injuries in that backfield to Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed. But another team that makes a lot of sense also, the New York Jets. Yes, I don't hate the New York Jets anymore. Why? Well, Adam Gase is no longer there, so that is a huge plus. Plus, they have $72 million available in cap space, and honestly, there's no competition in that backfield right now. It would be his job. He'd get a huge workload. Definitely a great landing spot as far as fantasy football may go, just because of the amount of volume he could see right there in New York. What about tight end JONNU Smith? I mean, this guy is an elite tight end talent, right? He's been derailed by injuries a few times here in his short career, but that big play potential is going to be there. But here's the bonus for JONNU Smith. Because he hasn't really gone out and performed and put up huge numbers consistently, he's not going to require some huge, outrageous contract, which means there's some teams in contention that could be able to afford him and maybe have them, have him help put them over the hump in 2021. One of them being, what about the Buffalo Bills? One of the best offenses in all of football. They have great receiving options, a run game, which is skeptical, but they could address that in the draft. But they could also upgrade tight end, right? What about Dawson Knox? Well, JONNU Smith would be a huge upgrade over Dawson Knox. They only have $4.5 million in cap space, but like I said, JONNU Smith isn't going to require a huge contract to sign there, and maybe he wants to win some games in Buffalo. Another option, what about the Cincinnati Bengals? They got $46 million in cap space, no competition at the tight end position on the depth chart, no A.J. Green, and an added weapon for Joe Burrow. Cincinnati makes a lot of sense. There's a definite need on that roster, and he could give that other, red zone option for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, like JONNU Smith there potentially. Plus, it gives them that opportunity to maybe focus a little bit more on the offensive line during the draft. What about Chris Carson? And this one's crazy, right? Just a few weeks ago, Pete Carroll comes out and says, man, we really need to rely on the running game a lot more in Seattle. So you'd think that, hey, maybe they'll probably bring back Chris Carson to be the head of that running game. I mean, he's been the favorite of Pete Carroll for years. No, they didn't even franchise tag him. They didn't want to pay him that much. They let him walk. He's now a free agent. But something to benefit Chris Carson is we saw a different area improve of his game last year, right? The pass catching ability. It's someone he didn't really rely upon earlier in his career. but showed he was able to take care of business in the passing game, and that's really going to open up his opportunities here in free agency. Now, he's battled injuries his entire career, right? That's not a shock to anyone, and because he can't really finish a season or play all 16 games, it's really going to keep his price tag a little bit lower as well, right? So who are a few teams that it would not surprise me to make a run after Chris Carson? What about the Arizona Cardinals? I mean, Kenyon Drake is a free agent. They have $17 million in cap space. And if anything, the J.J. Watt signing should have told you that they're going to make a run here in Arizona. They don't have a whole lot of time, right? They want to be able to make as much of a run as they can over the next few years before they have to pay Kyler Murray a crap ton of money. Now is the time. Signing J.J. Watt, bringing in some added weapons in the offense. We'll talk about another wide receiver there that would not surprise me if he landed there. But Chris Carson in the backfield of Arizona, a division he's familiar with, a team that has the money. Yes, I still believe that Chase Edmonds could get the bulk of the work. May not be great for fantasy purposes, but Chris Carson in the backfield of Arizona makes a lot of sense in my opinion. What about another divisional team there, the San Francisco 49ers? I mean, this is a team that it really doesn't matter who you put in the backfield, they're going to produce, right? But somebody's always injured in San Francisco. Now, Jerick McKinnon, he's going to be a free agent. Tevin Coleman's a free agent. They have $28 million in cap space. Yes, they'll have Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, but Chris Carson in that backfield is definitely somebody who may not see huge volume, but could put up, better efficiency numbers throughout the season and be a solid asset if needed. This is more of an NFL move than it is a fantasy football move. He would be, splitting carries too often to really be somebody you could count on. But it makes a lot of sense for the San Francisco 49ers to bring in a seasoned running back that can run between the tackles. They really, focus on the speed in that offense. They're really creative in San Francisco. Inside the goal line, Chris Carson could be a huge help for them. Just another team that has that money available if they want to take that route. What about another tight end, Hunter Henry? And honestly, he could go just about anywhere in the NFL. I mean, he's never played a 16-game season, but we still haven't seen his ceiling, right? He's super talented, and there's a couple teams out there that have a lot of money. Maybe tight end isn't a huge need for them, but it may be appealing for a Hunter Henry. What about the New England Patriots? They have $72 million in cap space, one of the highest in all of football. They have a lack of talent on both sides of the football. They lack red zone threats. The biggest issue here is who's going to play quarterback in New England? Is Cam Newton really going to come back? I mean, do they make another move here throughout the offseason? Do they draft somebody? There's just a lot of questions surrounding the offense as a whole in New England. Hunter Henry isn't really a need. They have other needs, but if they can get him on the cheap and start to solidify the core of this offense, it makes a lot of sense for him to go to New England. What about the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's on the rise, right? They have $50 million in cap space. No more Mo Alley Cox, which is always fun to say because he's a free agent. T.Y. Hilton, a free agent also. They just brought in Carson Wentz. We know Paris Campbell has struggled with, staying healthy in the past. We like Michael Pittman, right? But let's give Carson Wentz another option. He's very familiar with utilizing tight ends, right? Zach Ertz here over the past few years, Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry would fit in great there. It's a positional need. I hate to say that because I love myself some Jack Doyle, but Hunter Henry is an upgrade in that passing attack that could really help out Indianapolis here in 2021. Finally, Kenny Golladay. Now, he's arguably one of the best wide receivers in all of football, probably one of the best here that's going to be available in free agency. I mean, Juju's going to be out there. That's another name a lot of people are paying attention to, but a lot of people thought that maybe Kenny G would be franchise tagged. He was not yesterday. He's going to become a free agent, and obviously things didn't end well in Detroit, right? I mean, but he's going to be coveted by a lot of teams. A lot of teams are going to want Kenny Golladay, but the price is going to be high. With a price tag as high as it's going to be for Kenny Golladay, a lot of teams are just going to be priced out. A lot of people are going to be in salary cap hell and not be able to go after him. And honestly, my own personal opinion, Kenny Golladay doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's going to be willing to take less money to go win somewhere. He kind of has that diva-esque, aura about him. Now, I don't know that. I'm just kind of, going off of what we saw from last year and maybe over the last couple years in Detroit. So there's a few teams out there that make a little bit of sense. One, what about the Jacksonville Jaguars? I mean, they have $72 million in cap space. They're going to be bringing in Trevor Lawrence. He's going to need some added weapons. You got Urban Meyer as a new head coach. What about you pair him with a DJ Chark, with a James Robinson in the backfield, and then you can really focus on the offensive line and defense throughout the draft and the remainder of free agency. Now, all of a sudden, Jacksonville has a lot of offensive pieces that can make a lot of noise and really set Trevor Lawrence up, to be successful here in his first few years in Jacksonville. What about the Las Vegas Raiders? I mean, they have $36 million in cap space, no true wide receiver one. What do we talk about? Hunter Renfrow, Bryan Edwards here. I mean, it's a huge stage in Las Vegas, very diva-esque for Kenny G to go to. Makes a lot of sense right now. A lot of people, myself included, want to believe in all the young talent at the wide receiver position there in Las Vegas, like a Bryan Edwards. What's going to take all that pressure off of him? Having a true number one opposite of him and allowing Bryan Edwards to kind of come up through the ranks as a solid number two, kind of similar to what we saw with Chris Godwin just a few years ago in Tampa Bay, and we all know how that turned out. That could very much be Bryan Edwards in the next couple seasons, but Kenny G to Las Vegas makes a whole lot of sense. And there's going to be more names that come up here over the next few days, right? I mean, this is going to be almost consistent all the way through the NFL draft, through the end of April. And we're going to continue to make these updated videos for you guys just to kind of make sure that you're staying on top of all these moves here throughout the NFL. But this is very interactive, right? If you go back and look on all of our recent shows, we're trying to answer every comment on every show to make sure that you feel like you're a part of this community. So if that's what you're looking for, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. But we want to know, where do you think these names land? Where do you want Aaron Jones to go? Do you want Kenny Golladay on your team? Let me know down below in the comment section. It's always fun to be interactive like that, and we look forward to having those communications with you guys out there in the community. So hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.